Kirby 64 has made it to Nintendo Switch Online. You know what that means. It's time for the Kirby 64 review. So let's have some fun. And review one of the most worrying Kirby games out there. I'm just going to be playing random levels 10. So, let's begin by talking about the story. The story is pretty good in this game, to be honest. I mean, Kirby games have always had good lore, but never really had more interesting stories. This one acts as a follow-up to Dreamland 2 and 3, where in those games, a dark force named Dark Matter pretty much tried to take over Dreamland. But this time, an even more powerful force than ever successfully takes over a planet called Ripple Star. And in an act of desperation, the Fairy Queen of Ripple Star sends a fairy named Ribbon with the only weapon that can take out Dark Matter, and sends it away from the planet, so that way they may find a way. And, unfortunately, it ends up being destroyed by Dark Matter. And Ribbon tumbles down to Popstar, Kirby's home, and Kirby decides to help her get all the pieces of the shards, and get all the crystal shards back, and stop this evil force. So overall, pretty solid story. And it sort of acts as the finale to a semi-trilogy with Dreamland 2, 3, and 64. So not bad. But now, let's go in to the game's abilities. The game's abilities. Because this game has one of the technically smallest ability rosters in the game, containing only 7 abilities: Fire, Bomb, Stone, Ice, Spark, Needle, and Cutter. Only 7 abilities. However, it technically also has one of the biggest ability rosters in the series, because you can combine them. Yeah, this game allows for combination abilities. Like that. Never mind. So you can combine abilities for double the fun. And honestly, it's a really cool idea. And pretty much takes what we had in Dreamland 3 to a whole new level. So yeah, pretty good idea. However, it can also lead to mixed results with the ability's quality. I mean, sure, we have some really, really good ones, with one of my favorites in particular being the mix of Cutter and Cutter, but there's also Refrigerator, but you will never see anyone defend Melting Ice Cube or Dynamite. Basically what I'm saying is there's very mixed results. But I still think there are far more good than bad when it comes down to it. And I'm actually about to show you one of my favorites. So yeah, pretty cool idea. But now it's time to talk about the level design, one of the most important parts of a platformer. Does this game have good level design? Why, yes it does. Of course it does, it's a Kirby game. It's hard to explain what makes level design good, but this game does have very fun levels to experience and play through. So that does have to account for something. It's really good stuff. And here we go! A flaming sword! Yeah! So yeah, mixed abilities are cool, blah 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 blah. But now, level designs are great. But you can't have a good Kirby game without good boss fights. And yeah, this game has good boss fights. Particularly, my favorite is Miracle Matter, but not every boss fight in this game is unfortunately good. One of the worst ones, at least in the Nintendo Switch Online version, is the fight with Acro. In particular, it has an error where if you're underwater and take damage, but also still manage to do an action that would cause you to take damage while you're during your invincibility frames, you'll get soft locked, essentially, and have to restart the entire level. Luckily, a patch is going to be releasing early next week. So yeah, you don't have to worry for very long. And like I said, my favorite fight is Miracle Matter, which I'll probably go into on a later video. So not bad. And there's also the music. And honestly, this game has a really good soundtrack. I'm probably going to play some good music for you later on, but I really do like the way this game's OST sounds. And when this is one of the more okay songs in your game, that's a really good sign. It has amazing music like Rockstar, the final battle theme, Popstar, and my favorite level theme in the series, Factory Inspection. All of them are really good, and some of the best songs in the series. It probably isn't my favorite Kirby soundtrack, but it is certainly up there. And the visuals are N64 game visuals, let's leave it at that. They definitely don't look the best nowadays, especially when you compare them to more recent games. But it still hasn't aged awfully. It still doesn't make me look like I want to gouge my eyes out, like most early N64 games. And it does have some really good things. I love the final boss design, which of course I won't show. But yeah, pretty nice stuff all around. But there are other things I want to talk about, because this game certainly isn't perfect. For example, the game's mechanic, the game's main collectible, the enemy cards, could actually end up spoiling the final boss. But I do like how they actually end up showing what ability you can get. And another problem I'll have to show you very soon. So, this is another one of the game's problems. Okay. This does not work. You have to use the D-pad, and that can get very confusing at points. But that's really nothing. But is there anything else to say? Well, yeah. Now, we need to talk about the main thing that caused me to worry about this game's quality. And that is the heart stars. I was very worried about the heart stars early on, because they reminded me a lot of the stuff from Dreamland 3. Which, is my least favorite Kirby game. The crystal shards reminded me a lot of that. And thankfully, they were nowhere near as obnoxious as I expected them to be. Of course, a couple were obnoxious, but some are more like the one that's actually right up there. If you collect them all, you're given a different star. So I'm wondering how to get that. Well, it's actually really simple. The block is colored brown and red, so if you bring the abilities that correspond to that, fire and rock, you can break open the block really easily. It's very simple, but it's very effective. It doesn't really bother me, except for the time where there was no actual hint in the second, I believe, Shard and Neo Star's final level, where it didn't tell you that you need ice and ice, which is kind of annoying. But other than that, it's a perfectly fine mechanic. And honestly surprised me quite a bit, because I did expect it to be really obnoxious. So overall, final verdict is that this is a really good Kirby game. It isn't without its flaws, and I would still recommend checking out the N64 version instead. Even though this game is a little bit brighter, which fits a lot better with this as a Kirby game, I'd still think that it's a better option. It's still a great Kirby game, though. And if you don't have an N64, I'd highly recommend playing it on Nintendo Switch Online. Just wait for the patch to come out. So overall, it's really good. It may not be the greatest game ever made, but for a Kirby game, it's actually quite fun. Go give it a shot as soon as you can. That ends this review. See you soon!